I mean, it would definitely have a lot of implications, but only some things change, you know? I mean, not everything. Like a lot of the laws of physics that are on the actual Earth, none of that changes. The
No,
The
actual,
laws
true.
of physics would no, the laws of physics would change if the Earth is a flat plane.
no,
Well,
it's all the same.
gravity
Just the outer space
gravity would
one doesn't exist.
gravity wouldn't exist, at least not in the form we know it today. Maybe in that world, Whitsitt would be right about his electrostatics nonsense, but um,
Well, no,
no,
no. I mean,
the
you could still draw Newtonian precepts from just observations of stuff on the surface. You just wouldn't be able to extrapolate it up into a greater realm. You could still come to the
yeah,
9.8 and everything like that, and the mass and mass attracting mass. That you could still come to if you elected to. What you couldn't do, like you say, is you couldn't then evaluate the rest of the universe against that, because you did, by
I
definition,
wouldn't.
then where
I specifically, there's one aspect I wouldn't be able to prove how mass attracts mass to create planets because the mass attracting mass would imply that a flat Earth would collapse in on itself and create a sphere. That's how gravity works. So no, gravity wouldn't exist at all. The Earth was
no, that's
flat.
true, and also
I would have to go.
all the epicyclic reductionism that's occurred in astronomy would be completely gone in one fell swoop.
I would have to go. We need something else to explain why things fall down. Gravity, mass attracting mass would have to go. There's no other option.
But that already has gone. They already had bendy warpy spacetime. The mass attracting mass is already
Oh
gone.
my god, dude!
It's not. Oh
No,
my! You don't understand.
it's not gone. Oh,
It's nested. It's sort of nested. You know.
that's just
Like
the explanation of why.
it's
Call it
That's the
nested if you want.
explanation.
They couldn't maintain it, and they had to
it's
come up with a
still
new kooky
true.
theory.
It
So
is
They didn't come
still
up with a new
true.
model.
Look,
The
Newtonian
it,
laws
that
of physics are still true.
yes. Newton never explained why gravity happened. He just explained how it happened. Einstein explained why it happened. They didn't get rid of a model for why gravity happened. Einstein proposed a model for why gravity happened. Newton just said how it happened. And so people before him, in ancient Greece, observed that there was, drop object, go down, but and tried to quantify it. What Newton did was successfully quantify mathematically how it works. Einstein explained why it works. Well, Newton and Cavendish, because Newton didn't know what the gravitational constant was. He just knew there had to be one.
yep, yeah, and it's all electrostatics. Yeah, I don't. It's
No,
it's fine.
no,
if,
it isn't.
the
No, it's
balls.
not. We can measure
No, it's
electromagnetic
not.
waves. It doesn't. They nowhere near can account for the force of gravity. We can measure electric fields. Like, get away with electrostatics. Such fucking pseudoscience.
Yeah, because I could have an electrostatic field that's on the opposite charge. No, the same charge because like charges repel. It should go up. It still goes down. Gravity still makes it go down. Gravity is an exclusively attractive force. Electrostatics is attractive and repulsive, and electrostatic effects have not been demonstrated in any way. I'll
So I'm
grant you that
posting
electrostatics
in the chat
is a
right
real
now.
force.
Posting how Coulomb's law, the universal law of gravitation, they just took it from Coulomb's law of electrostatics.
Coulomb's law. No, because hold on. Oh my god,
It's the same. It's the same
Hold on.
formula they took for the universal law of gravitation. But yeah, I mean, the Cavendish can be happening from electrostatics and not mass
Sorry.
attracting mass.
You claim that this is amazing. You claim that that they stole the law from Coulomb's law, but Coulomb's law was invented in 1785, and the universal gravitational law came earlier than that. So how that happened is I don't know. Like, you gotta explain that to me because the time ain't working, bro.
Well, they time traveled.
Oh, yeah, like that didn't just work. They claim that Coulomb's. Oh my god.
Like every fucking time, without a hitch. When a flat earther like gives me like a alternative model for gravity, I looked it up. Right?
Oh, I just lost it when you
No,
said.
I mean, back to the topic
it's
we were
just
talking
give-
about of all the implications. I was saying that physics on the if tomorrow people had physical, tangible measurements that were then offered to the scientific community and the mainstream of the world, and they actually did see these tangible measurements and double check them, and that is just proof in the pudding. Like there's no belief involved, there's no refraction. I'm talking about tangible physical measurements. I'm just saying if that happened tomorrow and then the entire scientific world was thrown into the Earth's not a sphere, my original point is that the physics that happens on the earthly plane would not change at all. Now, what we could get into gravity and what it is or what it isn't or whatever, all the ideas or speculations and theories about the kinematics and the dynamics of what is actually causing it, but the kinematics wouldn't change. The dynamics would as to why it's happening, meaning, okay, it wouldn't be pulling to the center of a sphere. It would be pulling down to the plane. Why is it pulling down to the plane, and etc. But it wouldn't actually change any of the design and engineering of airplanes, everything we have. None of that would change. The actual physics,
Yeah,
the actual physics that we use every day.
Most things don't take Earth's curvature into account directly. You're right. There are some structures that do, which, so for example, the Venezuela Narrows Bridge in New York, the tops of the towers are like roughly 2 inches apart due to Earth's curvature, so that did have to take into account. There are, yeah, most of the things don't take Earth's curvature into account because of how big Earth is, but I'm sure there are some indirect. But Earth's curvature is not directly taken into account from 99% of things. But there are some, but yeah, it wouldn't change too much. Like the basic laws of motion would still apply, because those don't take gravity into account.
No, but then we have to explain, like, where did all of these rockets go?
Well, that's the thing that would happen, the implications. And this is why I think a lot of people, even the ones who might act as a debating form of defending it, I think could actually have like a deeper concern that if it's true, then it indicates that there is like a level of evil that they may not be ready to consider. And what I mean by is that level of deception, like that they would have done a whole rocket program, never gone to space once, and deceived the whole world, and steal money. But that's not even the worst of what they're doing. So that's the thing. But it's part of that. But I'm just saying, like, yeah, that's the implications of that there's a controlling faction that actually did the deception is the most important one, because that is what would actually liberate humanity, because it's those entities that are making life terrible for people on Earth, financially, physically.
Oh my God. No.
That's actually how life gets better, is actually this truth coming out, whereas people are defending it thinking that there's going to be some kind of negative outcome. Of course, the truth will win in the end. So,
Gio, sorry if I may. Yeah, because I already believe, right? And there's a lot of people who believe that the institutions of like the states now, governments, are designed to lie to all of us. I already believe that, right? I don't believe they're benevolent, right? I already believe that, right? So, and there's no fucking revolution happening yet, although we're calling for one. And the other point is, okay, let's say now we know the Earth is flat, and that NASA lied to us, and every space agency lied to us. Okay, step 2. What's step 2?
well, that's the thing, dude. So right now, it's like the wolf in sheep's clothing, but everybody thinks they're sheep. And some people might think they might be wolf, when they look at like what's going on with vaccines or the Federal Reserve, and there's enough people being like, they might be actually wolves. But the thing about the Earth one is it just completely pulls the mask off. Like they can't get away with it anymore.
I think step 2 should be them going to Antarctica and explaining the 24-hour sun.
Oh, wait. No. We're ignoring. Wait, for this hypothetical, we are ignoring all the evidence against flat Earth. Right?
I never said that.
It's not against flat Earth. It's for flat Earth.
No,
now
I'm
they get to bring in all their science that's been ignored.
No. Oh, sorry. I mean, like, we're just granting all of the flat Earth, right? And I'm still wondering.
Originally we were talking about the implications and why people defend it.
Right, that's exactly
the implications under the surface of what this means. And then what I did, maybe for what we're on right now, I was saying if there were physical, tangible measurements of the surface not curving and water not curving. And if that was presented to the scientific community, and then those people, some would probably not even want to look at it, but there will be enough, even in the mainstream, who will look at it. And I mean, proof is proof. And when it's physical and tangible, there really is no way the globe will be able to maintain beyond that. There's no more refraction. There's no. So I'm just saying, if it's actually shown in a physical, tangible way, then we were talking about what would unfold from there, and then I guess we were talking about the part of it being a deception and how that the significance.
I know. I was getting to that, Gio. I was getting to that. Wait,
and the group behind it that was doing it this whole time. That's what I'm saying, dude. Think about like we call, the evil government, whatever. Even you would probably agree. I mean, there's huge lies and deception. The world is not. We don't have a healthy government at all. So if they're lying about the shape of the earth and the shape of the earth comes out, that would be the chance that we have to actually get free from them, because enough people would start turning their heads and be like, what is going on? Like, okay, wow. They got, because the globe is the final straw. Like vaccines, people can still be deceived. Media, they can still be deceived. Social media, the oil, the Federal Reserve, they're getting away with, even war, they still have people on board. But the Earth not being a globe, that would be the final straw. I'd be like, no, if that was so embedded into our culture and into the schools. So my point is that then people would start turning their heads to who actually is behind this, and then that would potentially lead to us being freed from their power over us. But there's another way it could go, or they could maybe even go crazier and then do some military lockdown thing, or they could try to, not actually give up their power. And that's a deep question as to what would happen then and how that would play out.
Gio, man, listen, just repeating, right? Sorry, bro, but can I just? Because look, I was
kind of updating Trouble about where we were at actually, and kind of reviewing. The 24-hour sun we could go into, but I mean, it's just the sun above a planar surface. So
can I actually respond, right, please? Right. So my point is that they already are, like, I think most of the population of the world already kind of knows that the governments are like not for their interest. They're lying to us, right? They're crooks, man. Everybody knows this, right? Particularly people who've studied this in any way, right? They know about like the history and how it was portrayed to us about like Native Americans, right, and other sort of events that were glorified before, right? Manifest destiny, right? Oh, we're bringing democracy to the world, right?
So why is that evil in the government?
Bullshit.
Right? Why is that there?
What do you mean? Why is that? Oh wait, no, irrelevant. Wait. So, well, actually, we're gonna get to that, right? Kind of. That's my sort of critique here, because most of the people already know this. They cannot do fuck all about this, because what they're gonna do? Overthrow the governments, actually. What are you gonna do?
Well, that's the trick, is that I think the globe deception has them believing the main part of it, and then going with like the rest of the other things, because they think that the Copernican revolution led to this like advancement, and that the government's like the most advanced stage of it. So I think that's the thing. I don't think it can remain. Like if it were to come out more fully that the Earth's not a sphere, I don't think that the deception would be able to remain. And then, like you're saying, like, yeah, I mean, I guess technically if people right now like rebelled or something, but that would probably be pretty bloody. But if there was enough people in professional positions that were turning their heads to a lot of the factors that would have gone behind the globe deception, that's the question. Like, would they be able to even maintain power if it came out that the Earth wasn't a globe?
How? How would they be challenged in their power?
Well, I guess it would be that it's just so systemic, and it's built all the way into like the government, all the way to the core layers of it, that it seems like enough professionals and people would actually start looking into it, basically, and kind of not like a witch hunt kind of thing. I mean, that's a little dramatic, but getting to the bottom of it. I mean, that's just always been my sense of it, like into the future, how this is going to unfold.
Wait, so
obviously, if you just think it is a sphere, then you wouldn't think any of this is going to happen.
Wait, sorry, which experts?
You actually consider that it actually just isn't an actual sphere, like the actual truth of it isn't, and the actual truth is that it is, planar and stationary. Then now there's a question of if it would come out or not, and that's, I mean, obviously 10 years and it has somewhat, but
wait, please. So, my question is, which you said experts are gonna like challenge and investigate other experts and what?
Oh yeah, it pulls science apart, doesn't it? Exposes them all as the liars and frauds that they are. Does the same with maths.
No, but they're all part of the
Just
system, right? Why the fuck would they turn on each other?
Well, there would definitely be a huge paradigm shift. I mean, we could speculate as to how it would go down, but it seems like not all of science would have to be reviewed, but well, it all would have to be like double checked and reviewed to see what if there's other deceptions going on within it. I mean, for the Globe one to get it, get in there would be hugely problematic. So maybe other fields would be looked at, again as well to see where the lies were, where if there's other deceptions within it, which obviously there are within the mainstream science world. So probably those would be plucked out too.
Okay, all you just saying is that we're gonna find more lies, but I'm saying that people already now believe, right, under the globe paradigm, that governments lie to them. Governments don't have their best interest in mind, right? They're controlled by a few rich elites, right, who are profiting from this, right? Already, a lot of people believe that. I would say the majority of people is like not disillusioned about this. They're just disenfranchised about like thinking that they can change this because they're thought to be just an individual. Right? Forget about any kind of revolutions and investigating like the capitalist
Well,
system.
dude, let me ask you this. Okay, if we use the term flat earther, just real quick, let me say this, like the term flat earther, right? If right now, whatever you think of as a flat earther, whatever that even means to you, but I mean, someone that, has a stationary planar cosmology, etc., and, there's a wide range of people that even, I mean, whatever the label, the category, whatever you want to say, right? Dude, if like, let's just say over 50% of the politicians and scientists, if we just say take those two categories, and even government employees, let's just say there was physical measurements of knot curving that got into the scientific community, and then from there it spread, and it actually did get to the point where over 50% in politics, in science, etc., were quote unquote flat earthers. Okay, and I'm just using the word 50% just to kind of whatever. This might happen at 20% or 10%, but I'm just saying that's what I mean by enough people would start turning their heads and seeing like what is actually going on. And then there is the police that, I mean, bringing people to justice. I don't even know if that can happen with this, but my point is that, what you think of as a flat earther, whatever, even a zealot flat earther, somebody who's really, if those were the ones that were actually in the positions of government, of politics, of science, etc., you think they're just going to not figure it out? Like they're just going to be like, okay, you know what I mean? Like already flat earth folks would want to get to the truth of who's behind this basically, and all the other factors. So if they were in positions like that, you know what I'm saying? Like it just seems like it would be like their life mission at that point to figure out what is actually going on. And then that's the question, like, could we get into enough of the layers of the control system to actually sort of uproot who actually is behind this? Or are they protected enough that they would just, do martial law and do something crazy or just kill us all or something, and then do a reset or something crazy?
They would trigger another war for sure.
It would be, again, look, okay, Gio, you're hoping for like a flat earth, because you think these people are like ultimate skeptics and they would try to find and adhere to this rule for like, find truth and let truth speak for itself, right? Into positions of like high government. That would expose and like fix a lot of problems, like, how people are financially being exploited in a world, which is capitalism. That's just capitalism, right? To me, I find that
communism's got nothing. Communism's got nothing to answer for in manipulation, right?
I'm not advocating for capitalism, communism here at all. We're just talking about the current system. All right, so I'm very, unimpressed by this solution because, I mean, already we have examples of people. Sorry, just
it's the most logical way for something like this to happen. Now, I know that for you, if you think it's a globe, then you could call this a hypothetical. That's fine. But I'm just saying, like, a violent revolution is not going to be healthy for anyone. So,
well, yes, right, I agree. But how the fuck else are you hoping to, by the way, like change the system? Because Millions of people try it, right? There are a lot of radicals who really believe this system should go, right? We're financially exploited, that's true. Yeah, through the capitalist system, right? The system doesn't work for the average person, right? The average person is, glorified slave, right? Who can choose a master, but he has to choose one in order to survive, right? Even though it was his grandfather, his father who built the whole system before, right? Him, right? Um, this is not
No,
going to
but like
change. This is not going to
it
change if everybody now knows, let's say, right, that the Earth is flat and the institutions have been lying to us. Just another thing, right? The problem is still the same. Is that
it may very well
those
be,
people in power?
Spartacus.
Wait, just have power, right? They have the ability to fucking yeet you out of the existence anytime they want, right? They have the CIA who does black ops, right? Like, see what happened to the journalist in Saudi Arabia, right? Not in Saudi, but it was a critic. I forgot his name, but you remember the whole thing when he went to the Turkish
Yeah, he got
embassy?
chopped up. Yeah, we
Yeah,
remember. Yeah,
and
cool.
people
I'm familiar
defend,
with it, dude. But you keep
yeah.
you keep running
You
on. You keep
see,
running on
this
with
is
your
no, no.
Terry,
Sure,
sir.
just
You keep
well,
running
just
on. Like end it at some
well.
point, so it
To,
can be
to be
like
fair, Gio was talking a
responded
lot
to.
too, and there's like a lot of things to
Is
respond.
is there any
Share,
chance
share,
that we could
share the mic.
infiltrate the system and change it from the inside? Is that at all possible?
So it may very well
Oh,
be that the nature of like the social world essentially is a tendency towards corruption, and then they hit a big great reset. There's a reason for the Great Reset. Like, it's kind of interesting to me, like sociologically speaking, the Great Reset seems to be something of a prominent proposition that's put forward, right? And it just may be that, I don't know, we as a society may tend towards corruption, and there is not actually there's no method to actually stem it.
Yes, there is.
It's just the only way you stem it is like stop relying on like everyone else to inform you about what's going on in the world. You need to individuate yourself.
No.
But see, I hear you on that. But I would go as far as to say that the actual globe itself, I mean, to us who talk about it a lot, yeah, it's a difference in shape and geometry and the different type of models and stuff. But to the average person who believes it is a globe, they were brought up in this like globe matrix basically to where, and the reason I'm linking it is not just like the physical that they claim it's a globe, but the actual like mindset that there was a Copernican revolution and a heliocentric revolution, and they discovered the cutting edge of humanity, quote unquote, discovered that we're actually on a sphere. And then now the government itself, through NASA, is leading this whole sphere thing, like the going to space, going to the moon, and then that's always linked to the idea of like the cutting edge of technology. That's why we have cell phones and computers and the modern era, and we have amazing, cars and airplanes and wow, the modern era. And that's all linked to the globe, really. The globe, like not just as a physical model, but as like the whole mentality that we're at the cutting edge, that, the we thing, like we're all at that cutting edge. And then the government being the cutting edge of that. And so generally that's why people trust the government. It's linked in, to that degree. I mean, it's obviously not just that simplistic, but people do trust, the scientists who discovered it was a globe, and many of them work for the government agencies, and many of them are part of the CDC, and it's all interconnected to where the average person just is going with it. But the Earth, like if they were to know that the Earth wasn't a sphere, just that alone, there would all of a sudden be like, oh, well, there wasn't just this we of like the government, the cutting edge. There was actually a they, as it were, who was actually running, and running a deception. And then it brings everyone back to their own like individual self, perhaps, or their communities, or however it would go from there. But it shifts the whole thing because it's not like yay globe the way that everyone is now. That's why it's on your background for your cell phone and every logo. It's all yay globe. We might have all these differences, but having the globe be like the central part of it's like a governmental cosmology in that way, and it's linked to people's trust in that, and that's why there's probably not very much pushback or enough for some kind of like a revolution or some kind of a natural thing. So that's why I think it's going to take something more to actually trigger
It's a
that.
tendency towards nihilism as well, it would seem. Like a dependency upon other people that required to inform you. Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah, the doctors, the professionals, the scientists, the astronauts, yeah, it's all kind of linked in. And of course, some people
And like
question
you
those
as the
things to a
individual
degree.
are disempowered from the interpretation. Like you should not sort of or defer to your own interpretation of the world.
Yep. Well, they even say that consult with your doctor. You know, make sure you consult with a professional before you XYZ. And that's the thing. People are consulting the professionals to tell them what the Earth is, the globe, and then they're sold the whole history of our whole humanity was based on it, which I don't necessarily believe all that history is even true. So yeah,
Wait,
it's
come on.
it's how they
Wait.
get people to be like the idea of, you know, yeah, kind of. I'm not trying to say this offensive to anyone who believes it's a globe, because I'm not saying that anyone in here is this, but the idea of like a blind follower, where it's just you're going with the program kind of thing. I'm not saying you guys
they
are
go
or whatever,
like
because you
Can't
guys
believe
are.
you say that,
Man,
Gio.
this is the point that
You're
like
saying-
no, it's the concept of when in
May I
Rome, right?
respond?
And we're all in Rome, like globe Rome right now. And so the proposition is that when in Rome, just go along with Rome.
May
Okay.
I respond
But-
to Gio's points?
Yeah, it's
'Cause
none of
I'm,
you
like,
guys, of
bleeding.
course. It's only the the nameless, faceless people. Well, it's just I mean, I went with the
Gio.
globe growing up too. I went. I didn't like fully think it was a globe. I actually always questioned it, but I generally accepted it was a globe. That's the words I use. I generally accepted it. I didn't like hardcore believe it or think it was like. I always had questions about it, but I was in it too. I mean, for 30 something plus years of my life, I was
Well, hey, Gio.
well, it's been about 10 years. So yeah, about since I was 34 to 44. So up through 34, I was pretty much in that globe system as well. Even though
Does
I
Gio
rebelled
have to
against
share
it.
his mic too?
I rebelled against it back then too, but I still was
Gio's
going
the
with the
boss.
system. What?
I said Gio's
Bro,
the boss.
you just Gio. No. Like, listen. I know this is your server, man. I was trying to have a conversation with you. Like, I'm asking questions from a particular angle here, and you just.
I mean,
talk,
I'm a
man.
little talkative right now, but I don't think I'm like monologuing, but maybe a little long. Go ahead.
No, you talk too much, Gio. Shut up.
No, you
Spartacus, get your point out, man. If you can be
Well,
succinct.
I mean, I'll try to hold it
um,
at least under 60 seconds. Like I'm not going like 5-minute stuff.
uh,
But if it's too many points at once, fair enough.
oh, I love you, man. Listen, so okay, my objection, I think, was still addressed really is that I don't think fuck all is gonna happen. Like, flat earthers have this misconception about what to, what the problem exactly is, right? The cause of it, rather, of this, like, us being the average person being financially exploited, right? Oppressed by the elites, right? In a broader sense, 100% agree, right? But a flat earther would say it's just about like their it's just because flat earth, right? Somehow
No, they got you. They got you
Somehow.
involved,
Well,
embroiled in a rat race. They
Somehow.
got you
Yeah,
embroiled in a rat
that's
race.
called
in which
capitalism.
that
Yes,
you haven't got
yes.
enough time.
Much better than
You can call it
Yes,
capitalism.
yes.
Much better than
No, it's
communism.
a rat.
Yes.
It's a psychosocial rat race. It's not a capital. Stop blaming it all on capitalism as if that's the single-handed issue at play
It
here.
all really
This is a
Like, let me give an
psycho-spiritual
example.
battle that's going on.
it
right?
all boils down
Let,
to
let me
that,
just say
right?
one short thing.
Well, no,
like,
wait.
well, let me say one short thing. Hold on. People, I'm going to make this one statement. It's a little general, but I'll just make it. It's brief. Okay. People trust the Federal Reserve in the same way that they trust the quote unquote scientists that discovered it was a globe and the whole globe idea, and that we're at the cutting edge of humanity and the cell phones and the computers. They trust the Federal Reserve because they trust the system that also is the globe and the discovery they claim in this whole modern era. It's connected. And I'm just using that one example. They trust the Federal Reserve. Maybe they also trust Big Pharma and the vaccines. Maybe they also trust Monsanto and the chemicals on the food. Maybe they trust the media. It goes multiple layers
You
deep.
said short.
But my point is that people have this generalized trust that makes it to where they don't want to push back or rebel or have any serious looking around. And I'm just saying the globe is like the core thing that seems to be sort of driving the matrix in that way and people's acceptance of it because it's this cutting edge. So my point is they trust the Federal Reserve. That was the example, which is then the financial system and the banking. So they're trusting that to where now they're going to go work, 15 hours a day or 10 hours a day to pay the bills because they trust the money is real and that system's real. So it's all connected.
How will that change? Okay, listen. In any writings of like people who analyzed the socioeconomic system, right, that we live in now, capitalism, where the fuck did there any side, right, any side, be it like the communists, be it like the capitalists, be it the extreme free market capitalist, in any way do their theories touch on on the shape of the Earth. Because I've
Exactly.
read them, they have nothing to do with that. Like Karl Marx's main theory, right, the scientific theory of the labor theory of value, nothing to do with the shape of the Earth, my
It's
guy.
to do with extracting value
Nothing to
of
do.
you and your
No,
consciousness, sir. Essentially, like basically,
what?
the
That's
purview
capitalism.
is essentially
Are
that
you saying that's
they
capitalism?
Well, wait, let him
are
speak. We got to at least go one at a time.
Are you familiar with the Overton window
Yes.
as a concept? Cool. All
Mm.
they're doing is just closing the Overton window on your
You close it.
purview of like your interpretation of reality, right? You gotta function within the modernity. So they've created a psycho. What do you call it? It's a psycho-spiritual sort of
The fuck
phenomenon,
does
or
that
like
mean?
Yeah, and the whole it's
essentially
got the whole
it's the
origin story.
materialistic interpretation of the world. There is no
Exactly.
spiritual interpretation within that of capitalism or communism. It's all about the value exchange that human beings
That's
do.
just like it's just
And that's all they've got you trapped in the
what
dialogue
they're
of is like
no
the value that human beings create, and they want to define
yeah.
that. And it's the left, right paradigm that they're focusing you in on, and they do got like they offer no window into the other alternative interpretation.
What's the alternative? What's the alternative? Okay, wait. Let me give you wait. So you're right that it is like the foundation in a sense, right? Which is why it's just not questioned. Which is why it's completely fucking irrelevant to the writings, right? Like,
Yeah, dude, exactly.
they
They left the entire
both like
conversation off the
both like
table by
both
creating
like
a
yeah,
dialogue
because
between
it
two things
doesn't
that do not want to engage
fucking
with the topic.
matter to like economics, right? It
Dude,
doesn't matter to economics.
It does matter to
the whole
economics if
globe
you
thing
look
was
at.
just the whole globe thing was just ideas until NASA claims to have gone to outer space and taken a picture or whatever. Like it was just literally ideas back in the
Oh, that's wrong.
1908,
They're proofs.
1751. It was just a
There,
concept.
no, Geo,
There
like
was no proof of it. It never has been, but
Eratosthenes, right? And
yeah,
many
sticks in the ground. That's what I'm
people.
saying. It was a story of
Yes,
sticks in the ground.
Measured the
it's not a
circumference of the Earth, so it
story. He
can't just
did
be an idea.
measure it, and there's many other people after him who did like things that confirm that the standard cosmology that we have now, right, in various ways, right? But you keep saying that
They
somehow
don't confirm it;
if
they
not
affirm it.
Spartacus, you're not really
confirm.
stopping. You just keep
Yo,
going. You
yo,
got to
you
at least
kidding
pass
me,
the mic.
man? Geo,
All right, well
you've
then
been
just pass it when you're done. Go
Joe,
ahead.
bro,
We're waiting
listen.
for you to be finished. I
Yeah,
think people are
are
trying to
you
get in.
fucking kidding me, Gio? You've been talking a bunch. No,
I
come
mean,
on,
you're
bro.
the one that thinks there's no economic effect, so
Yeah, there isn't.
you're
At
right.
least
Yeah,
in the
the
right. At
technology
least
they're
in.
hiding wouldn't
At
change
least
the
what
economic
fucking
landscape overnight.
and
You're
what
right.
the fuck has to do with the
You're right.
shape
Get
of the
mad. You're
earth?
right. You're right, bro.
But anyway, look, okay, I'm gonna finish my point here, right? Again, Gio, I just do not see how people now believing that the Earth is flat has any influence on the economics, right? Elon Musk is still gonna be the richest man in the world, right? And he's gonna have the most influence as an individual in human history over politics, right? Right, and that's not like anything exceptional because we've seen that elites, people of power, people of money, sorry, money than power rather, right, have influence over politics, right?
Yeah, but they inhabit both the left and the right. They inhabit both the communistic interpretation and the
I agree.
capitalistic
No, not
interpretation. And
communistic, bro.
no, dude, they're
Spartacus, you're just
floating between
interrupting
both
him,
of
bro.
them.
Can you go on mute for like a second? Let's let someone
That's good.
respond. Well, was that just an interjection? I don't know. I was trying to listen to what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm let me talk.
Like you're just floating this idea that like the whole problem is down to capitalism, and like the polemic or the dilemma between was it capitalism and communism is just essentially at some point. I mean, what's the third option? That's what they're distracting us with in my interpretation, Spartacus. Is essentially like they've got you like conversing on the topic between capitalism and communism, and it causes such a distraction, such that you never consider a third option.
Yeah,
That's
and let me also respond to. Yeah, no, I hear you on that. Well, that's the thing. They've kind of pigeonholed us into this like system with the banking in general. Because you mentioned the economics and about the shape of the Earth. I mean, of course, there would be huge changes in everything if the shape of the Earth is not the globe, obviously, and we'll come out about that. But I had just mentioned it. If you're talking about something I was relating to, I was just saying the Federal Reserve, like just linking the general trust in the Federal Reserve. People have that because they have trust in fill in the blank, the CDC, the NIH. I mean, go through all the letter organizations and the governmental systems and so on. So I was just linking it, to that component of it. I don't know. There's so many things that were said. I don't. Where are we at this point?
Yeah, I'm lost in the conversation where we're at.
Spartacus, could you explain what it is about capitalism that you think is causing the problems, rather than just saying capitalism?
Well, there's a lot of capitalism keeps putting pressure on like the working class, which is the majority of society, right? And I think this is why we see a lot of the social ills today, like young men being fucking incels, people not having families, as much, right? So many things. It's because people have been squeezed for their time, right, by the bosses that they have to pick one, right? They have to pick one boss, right? That's your freedom. But because the negotiation ability of you as an individual against the business, right, is like so low, right? You have so low leverage because millions of people need the job right now to pay rent, to feed their kids, right? The business, they have plenty of money like in stock, right? They cannot hire you. They can get the other guy, and that creates a sort of rat race to the bottom, right? As Wixky said, for example, right?
Yeah, but
Let's
I mean, let's try to stay on topic. But I mean, you're lingering off into general capitalism, but
There was
I
a
mean,
discussion about this.
because I was
think
originally thinking it that the trust in the money is linked to the trust in the globe. People are trusting the money because they think the same people who discovered it was a globe and the cutting edge of humanity are also to be trusted. That's what I was originally. It's like the globe system keeps people trusting the whole system, and then all the different countries they claim how they're all different, and then there's the national debt, and your currency is only worth this because it has to battle with the other countries. That whole thing is based upon like kind of the globe paradigm that goes with that.
What?
Yeah, which
No,
I think
Gio,
I agree with
you
Spartacus, and it
you.
all comes down to materialism, right? So if you can get people to go along with this, like, because the core aspect of everything here is that whether there is an or isn't a God, right? Because if you believe that there was a creator and this place was created, then God would obviously be at the pinnacle of your like decision making and your moral accountability. So if you get everyone into this material realm, which you've just conceded to by saying that people working, they've been trapped in the system because they want all this material goods. You've got people now trapped in a system. And as you see that as more people becoming more atheists as time's coming along, more and more people actually getting trapped in the system. So and that's kind of the link there. It's like you're rejecting God, you're getting trapped in the system that's built, and you're only allowed to do that is under materialism.
Yeah, I was going to mention like
God, you're trapped in the system.
well, it's like referred to as the Newtonian Cartesian materialistic paradigm. So obviously Newton and Descartes, Newtonian Cartesian. It's like the philosophies of Newton and Descartes, and it's this materialistic paradigm which is set up. It's connected to like evolution, the claimed discovery that it's a globe, obviously even the Big Bang, and then like the materialistic view that we're on like a planet and we have like limited resources, and so the idea of like the whole scientist paradigm of like leaving aside emotion and spirituality, you leave all that to the side and you just do like almost like robotic physical analysis, and that matter, and then they have the whole origin story of where matter came from in terms of like Big Bang, outer space, gravity, everything that made it all come together. So it's all kind of connected to then the materialistic mindset, which I mean all of us were pretty much born in this era, and I don't everyone's maybe a little bit different where they grew up, but I mean I would say for myself like there's definitely a strong way in which like when you're my childhood, and I'm sure your guys' as well, but it's like we're born into this particular paradigm and like whole philosophy and worldview, and it really is all centered on the globe as well as being like the foundational layer of it, like we're on a ball and we're going through space, and then the NASA and everything that goes along with it.
Gio, sorry, not Gio. Gio, wait, how, if I may ask, like, give me a rough estimate of how old, like, you are, so, because you mentioned, right, can you give me that?
I'm 44.
Bro,
But yeah, I mean,
broski.
it's just that it's basically the materialistic paradigm, the Newtonian Cartesian paradigm, is the one that claims
Well, wait.
discovered. It was the one that claims discovered this huge quote unquote breakthrough, that we're on a globe, and the one that is like the foundation of science, which discovered said globe.
Well,
And then you get
Gio,
into the politics, all the other layers of it that are embedded in. Yeah. But yeah, I'm
Gio,
44.
bro, so I'm a few years younger than you, but I'm there too. I was born in the 80s, roughly. And in my childhood, I grew up in a first quote unquote a communist system, then a post-communist system. Right, and so I've seen authoritarianism. I've seen how governments control people. Right, and it never did the shape of the earth came up in any way. It was completely irrelevant. It didn't matter.
Exactly.
It
They're not
didn't
talking
matter.
about it, sir.
Because it's
Yeah, they have
irrelevant
it
to the power
embedded way
dynamic.
before.
The
Yeah, I mean,
power. Okay,
it
look,
was
the
already
power
embedded.
dynamics. Yeah, it's assumed to be the case, right? But it's
For the
irrelevant
reasons
as
I'm saying,
well.
they say the cutting edge of the top
Wait,
scientists discovered it. That's how they.
it's
That's
irrelevant
the
though.
narrative now.
Right? No, the meta narrative now, right, is that you have to have money, right, and capital. That's how you succeed. It doesn't matter if the earth is flat or round. Doesn't matter at all, right? Especially when you go to the government, right? It doesn't matter. It's about
Right.
power, influence, money, capital.
How do you garner power in this world, Spartacus, in your interpretation? How do you actually garner power as an individual?
Well, that's what
What's the primary means by which you garner power?
I was going to actually clarify that exactly because, I mentioned like power. So I think actually money, private property, right, is power. Like money is power. Owning
Influence is power, sir. Come on, man.
as well. True.
You'll work this out sooner or
How do
later,
you
dude.
get?
That
How do? Yeah, I don't disagree with you.
convincing people to comport and comply with your
Yes,
similar ideologies
it's
that
power.
serve your benefit is that of a religion, and essentially the globe is nothing but a religion, sir.
Irrelevant though. You see, right? So I again still
The
You would
narrative
probably
is power.
I think still
you
it's
would
not
probably
being addressed right. It's like how the fuck does the power dynamic between like the average person who's working for a boss, right? AKA basically all of humans, right? With the exception of like 1%, 3% of people who own capital. How does them now knowing that the earth is flat and knowing for sure, which they already know before, I would say, that the institutions are lying to them, how does that change the power dynamic? Does it now give them more money, more
The narrative will
influence?
change. It will
What
change
do you
the
mean?
narrative.
What do
If
you
you own the
mean?
narrative, you own the power.
What the fuck? How?
Yeah, I mean, dude,
Explain.
the government agency that releases the WGS 84, which is the coordinate system for the entire globe Earth, is the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, which is a sister agency to the CIA and the FBI. So the United States National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, they're the one that actually releases and publishes the WGS 84, which is the official coordinate system of the entire globe. So it changes
Okay.
everything if the very governmental system, because people generally trust that level of government. Well, who really trusts the CIA and the FBI? But I guess
How?
people do. I mean, they're officials that people think are officials. They whatever. If you get pulled over by an FBI, whatever, people are going to treat it like a cop, or even someone has more control than a cop. So people are already trusting that at a foundational level, and so
Well, I think it's even
everything would
deeper
have
than
to
that
change.
because that doesn't even matter in itself. Let's say that everyone doesn't trust the government. They still control the narrative. So even if you don't trust the government, they still own the narrative. So therefore, they own the power. And that's kind of how I see it.
I want to get the narrative. Like, look, okay, Oh my god! It
Well, yeah,
doesn't
through the
matter what the.
media. I mean, that's how they sold the globe
Yeah,
to us
yeah.
originally, is all through the media.
Oh my god! They also sold you more important things to them, like
Well, it's
that
your
you
worldview as
don't.
well. The narrative goes
That
deep. And that's what Gio was saying. It goes right down to your worldview and your fundamental principles of how you see the
it's
world. So,
not changing the fundamental though relationship,
yeah, it is because
and
it's
at
the
first
globe is the
not
linchpin
how.
for materialism, which is what we've already addressed
Okay,
earlier. So,
okay,
of
cool, cool,
course, it
cool,
will.
cool, 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 cool. Now, okay, now we all believe in not materialism, but idealism, right? Okay, now what? Every person in the world doesn't believe materialism is like
So,
the
Yeah,
explanation.
so then
yeah,
the
I'll
way
put it
that
forward to you.
society's progressed will
I'll put it
probably
forward to you.
reverse as it has done in the past
Okay.
20, even since COVID. So you can see how
Reverse.
society's changed in the
So
past 5
What?
years.
COVID? What
the
the fuck does it?
just
Oh.
like one sec. So the psycho-spiritual like relationship is primarily like for me, just looking at it broad spectrum is essentially they take your time. Yeah. So we're stuck up in this like banking system that's basically extracting value for providing nothing. Okay, this is the act of usury. This is what the Bible speaks against. This is why I think the Bible's still relevant. And they've basically managed to sort of devoid us of any sort of relationship with that, such that you could necessarily challenge that. What is it? This materialistic worldview that you're embedded within. I mean, if the whole purpose of you like coming into this existence, that of reality, is actually more of a spiritual learning session, not that of you kind of like being a productive cog within the society. That's
You
the
don't have a
delusion.
choice, Jesus Christ.
You do have a choice. You
No,
do have
you
a choice, sir.
don't. Oh no!
Okay, tell
All
me why I
workers.
don't have a choice when I'm trying to tell you I do have
Let
a
me
choice.
explain. Well, let me explain to you. In terms of being a cog in a machine and a capitalist system, the reason why it works is because it deprives most people of subsistence, right? They have no other like most people in the world, like millions of them, right? If you actually know hundreds of millions of them, if you look at about the whole world, they cannot just go to like their local forest and just do foraging. There's not enough. There's not enough capacity
Every
of that.
human being
No,
creates
no, no.
value in
Stop,
this
stop,
world, right?
stop, stop,
Through their
stop, stop.
ideas.
Stop, please. Let me finish.
Spartacus, you're not passing
What?
the mic. It's kind of a little.
Are
bit
you
off
fucking
topic.
kidding me, man? I did
Alex,
2 sentences, and Gio, you
my
talked for
apologies.
like so many.
My apologies for interrupting you, Spartacus, please.
Yeah, the simple point is that it's really not feasible nowadays for like everybody to just ignore their material conditions because it's life and death.
We're not suggesting that you should ignore it. We're asking, like, what I would say that, like, on our side is actually a correct balance. We're looking to correct the balance sheet that's going on here because both capitalism and communism seems to be oriented completely around materialism.
I'm not talking about communism. Stop bringing it up.
Well, I mean, if we're looking at like economic divide, I mean, that's the polemic that's being provided to us to have a discourse between. But you're like not even willing to engage with the notion of that of the spiritual.
No, I am. I'm saying, okay, let's say that everybody now is spiritually focused, but unless they're still making money to survive, they're dead.
Have you ever considered this before? Or are you just commentating on something
Yes.
that maybe like you understand superficially?
Oh, trust me.
Because I put it forward to you that, right, like if you've got a set amount of time, right, within this plane of existence, every bit of power and nuance that you provide back into the world is essentially there for them to extract. But then what you've got to recognize, in my interpretation anyway, is that, well, maybe like you're not here as a battery source for them to provide value back into the world. Maybe you've actually got an individualized interpretation that should be embodied within that. And it's just not working at the moment, is it?
Yeah, not exactly sure what you're talking about.
But we're talking about, yeah, also just the bigger, like we're in this paradigm, this materialistic paradigm right now, the Newtonian Cartesian. Obviously, Isaac Newton, and when you look at like just even the way the whole schooling system is run and the medical and all the different sciences, you know, all the official sciences.
Spartacus, what's your rationale for the reason for your being? What is it? Like, if you don't mind me asking, it's a big question, I know, but maybe have you
What's the reason for me existing?
Yeah.
What's my purpose?
Yeah. Have you got an answer to that question? Because if you don't have an answer to that question, then you sit as a cog purely within the paradigm of the capitalism versus communism because you haven't considered yourself outside of that paradigm.
No. Look, first of all, no. I don't think communism, first of all, socialism ignores these kind of considerations. Capitalism does. Capitalism is seeking to just make you a cog in a machine in a private enterprise of some rich fuck.
Okay. And what does communism propose then?
So, well, I don't want to get into that because that'd be a different whole discussion then.
No, because then what you recognize, what you're trying to actually point out is like psycho-spiritual sort of interpretation. I suspect anyway. Yeah, psychological, spiritual interpretation.
Of what? Like that we
your reason for being here and all the thing that you put your energy into. Have you considered where you put your energy into and actually ask the question?
Yeah.
Okay, and what have you come up with then? What's your conclusion? Why are you so like? Why are you so like? Exactly. Is it personal in the sense that you don't want to tell us or you don't want to mention it? Because it seems to be the thing that animates your argumentation. That's what I'm trying to get to the heart of. What animates your argumentation? Like, why are you here? Like, why are you spreading the ideas that you profess?
Well, okay, why I'm here, that's like a trivial kind of thing. It's because I have nothing better to do, and it like keeps away my thoughts from like really shitty thoughts that I'm on medication for that I shouldn't have.
Sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the pretty much. I mean,
what if the suggestion is then that like if actually you did come up with a conclusion, right, that psycho-spiritually sort of provided a response that should animate you, right? That's not sort of lamenting, or you don't need any form of medication in order to sort of, I don't know, kind of resolve. What is it like?
That's another function of the materialistic paradigm, actually. If you're talking about those types of drugs where they think of the brain as a physical thing that has like levels that need to be changed, rather than the actual psycho-spiritual crisis that one might be in as to what the actual cause of the condition is.
Well, there is the condition of like people having certain tendencies that are just undesirable, and I had like a really bad fucking thing with the diazepam and alcohol. I slipped on the stairs, really fucked up my tailbone, right? And they gave me diazepam, but the next morning, right, I was drinking. I was drinking a lot, and that created. Okay. Sorry, I have indigestion right at the same time. My bad. That's great. So took the diazepam in like 2 o'clock because we called an ambulance, right? In the night, we woke up 9 o'clock. Immediately, you know, because it was Friday, right? I was like hanging out with the guys.
Have you looked outside of like you've got I mean, you clearly sort of like you've got some health issues or something, and you seem to keep referring to the medical industry for. I'm just asking the question of you. Like, do you think maybe you should look outside of the particular medical industry for? What
I have considered many things. The thing that actually worked, that saved my life, right? Because I was like, holy shit, never take diazepam and alcohol. Anybody, never.
Never take diazepam or alcohol.
Well, actually, exactly.
Just take diazepam,
not
drink
together.
alcohol.
Well, no. Diazepam itself actually is what saved my life, right? Because I was prescribed diazepam at first, so I can calm the fuck down, because my muscles would just not listen to me. All right, it was fucking insane. Anyway, long story short, I had some issues psychologically. They gave me some meds, not much better. I'm gonna probably get off the meds in a year or so.
How does this even make sense to you guys? The thing that like drives me up the wall is the.
Anyways, I was just gonna read this. I'm going on a little bit deep about him, which I didn't really because that's kind of a whole thing. But my point is that like here, I'll just read this and then I'll just read this real quick. So because it's he talks a lot about how like the worldview today is like disenchanted. So I'll just read this. Richard Tarnas critiques the modern, disenchanted worldview for creating a soulless and meaningless universe, reducing consciousness to a human accident, and leading to nihilism and psychic suffering. He proposes that the reduction of meaning and value to the human mind, coupled with a sense of cosmic detachment. You see, the meaning and value just to the human mind, to the physical human mind, coupled with a sense of cosmic detachment, has led to profound societal and existential crisis. To move beyond this state, Tarnas advocates a reintegration of consciousness with a new, re-enchanted worldview, which embraces a multiplicity of perspectives and deep interconnection between cosmos and human psyche. Now, he's integrating that the connection between the movement of the planets basically, and how when they align for like a whole decade, there's a whole energy through that whole decade. So he's coming from the heliocentric solar system view, and he is talking about the kind of disenchanted worldview there. But I'm just saying he's also like talking about, reconnecting us with the cosmos, like the actual timing of the planets as well. So sorry that was all long-winded, but I was just going to read that because it was also linked to kind of what we're talking about, like the kind of like disenchanted worldview, which separates
I
and then
appreciate it.
has the materialism and leaves out the spiritual, and then his views on how the new worldview. He's not really talking flat Earth, but how his thoughts on integrating more to the solar system and the astrological is part of his work that he kind of shifted to, which a lot of the mainstream has, now, kind of has.
I
in some ways,
really severely suspect that the language and linguistics and the means by which to communicate this stuff that we're trying to has actually been almost intentionally limited in its capacity to do so. Which is kind of just, I mean,
I think
like-
I think you're right. It's limited if you're looking at things through like an atheist paradigm when everything is material, because you have to exclude like the metaphysical elements of like language, interpretation. So if you kind of in that kind of worldview where everything's physical, there's no such thing as a mind, so to speak. It's the brain and it's the chemical reactions in the brain. Then yes, you are limited, but that's only if you're excluding the metaphysical. So once you include the metaphysical, I think, which all logic's relied on, all logic's metaphysical. All the principles of how we kind of justify things come through a metaphysical lens, but we kind of have to deny that to accept like the atheist paradigm. So I think you're right, but that's only if you're looking at it through the worldview of like a material atheist kind of nihilist kind of lens. I'm not sure if anyone's ever looked into like philosophy and kind of even just like logic itself. You've got the three laws of logic. You've got time, you've got past, present, future. You've got like contradiction. None of these things you can actually physically touch. You can't pass me a contradiction. So you consider it as being metaphysical. So, and that's a way of justifying. That's a way of logic. So just kind of those aspects in itself, you are reliant on the metaphysical, which indicates a God, a creator, because those metaphysical elements, there's order, there's a universal kind of order and organization there, which cannot be explained just by having a chaotic Big Bang explosion of disorder. So yeah, you have to basically exclude that option of that worldview under an atheist paradigm, because everything is material and it all comes down to materialism, I think, anyway. You have to accept that there is a metaphysical world out there, and then our interpretations can be explained and justified.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, like as a metaphor, imagery at least. It's almost like the human psyche is falling into the human or the materialistic experience.
Well, the way that here I'm posting this video, it was the first one that had popped up that is connected to this topic. This is actually like fairly recent though, but that's actually Rick Tarnas there, and he's talking a bit about this. But he talks about how, like at the beginning of that video, he talks about, and this is something he's talked about quite a bit, where in earlier times in humanity, like meaning pervaded the entire cosmos, like from the human mind out to the actual world. The meaning actually was imbued within the entire realm or the entire universe, whatever you want to call it. Meaning that, if a baby was born and, a bird flew right, in front of a sunset, that had meaning. Like there was some significance to that bird's spirit and why it flew at that time. And so on. So he talks about how meaning was always like pervading nature in that way. And then he talks about how in the modern era, it's like it's all been like vacuum sucked into the brain, basically into each of our individual brains, to where meaning is now like within the actual individual self, that we then have to try to find meaning. And that kind of the void that creates, where it's like this separation from the physical world, where now it's like we want to either exploit the world with science, or we want to try to just beat nature and do try to kind of battle the brain chemistry with other chemicals, like that whole paradigm. But anyways, but yeah, just about how like he talks about how like from earlier humanity, just how the meaning was more pervasive, and then now it's been like isolated into the individual self, and then the kind of materialistic mindset of like, oh, I'm just a brain and a body, and then
Yeah, that's the exact point that I was mentioning. That you hit the nail on the head. That was the exact point, and it's kind of the paradigm of secularism. It's literally your reality comes from your preferences, and then where do we get our preferences from? And you can't justify. There's no way of justifying anything inside, because let's say you say X and then I say Y. Who's right? No one's right, because just the fact that you've got a disagreement means that there's no right or wrong. If that makes sense.
Papa Flerf. I love the name, by the way. I mean, how do you go about it, dude? Like, I mean, do you sort of is there an authoritative power that has the correct interpretation such that you'd be inclined to follow, or do you? I mean, from my personal interpretation, it's like, dude, you like the world is providing you with all the possible pizza toppings, and you almost get to pick and choose the way that you want to sort of choose your own adventure, kind of sort of situation.
I think I know
like, where do you?
It's quite a hard question to answer. Basically, you're saying, how do you justify him? How would I justify, and how would someone else justify, and basically who's right? That's you're kind of reiterating that point. But how would you physically justify whether your interpretation is correct? Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't even care about how do you justify it. Yeah, I mean, like, what is sort of embodies the decision? Like, what's the causal thing that makes you go, okay, this is the thing, I'm sticking with it. Let's go.
Yeah, I think it comes down to intuition, but to be able to understand that and physically have a scientific explanation, I think you've got to study like logic, you've got to study like epistemology, and just, for example, when you're looking at relativity and you're kind of trying to evaluate whether it's true or not, then what kind of epistemology, what's the kind of paradigm that's being used to interpret knowledge? Like, what are they using? What's relativity built on? So from my understanding of relativity, I'm just giving an example here. I'm not like here to debate relativity or anything. Like, relativity works mathematically, right? Everyone can agree that it's great mathematically, even though we have concerns with the Sagnac effect and the fact it can't predict certain things. But we'll just say, for the sake of argument, that it works mathematically. But it being like working fine mathematically is only in an epistemological level. That's pragmatism, right? So just because it works mathematically, it doesn't mean that it's true. Because if under the paradigm of pragmatism, we can look at the pros and cons of pragmatism and go into the whole philosophical history of that. And basically, one of the downfalls of pragmatism is that it doesn't reflect reality. It just because it works mathematically, it doesn't actually. Basically, it doesn't reflect reality. Because it's just maths at the end of the day. So if something's built just based on the fact of pragmatism, then there's an argument for it there. Whereas people try and argue that pragmatism does reflect reality, and they try and bridge the gaps through like empiricism. But if there's no like experimental basis to your claim, like the bending and warping of space-time, then which would be an empiricalist worldview. Then if it's just pragmatic, then I would say that's probably not a good foundation or belief to believe in, because epistemologically speaking, what is knowledge? Then it doesn't tell you much about like the cause. It's just giving a kind of
So
that's kind of how I would go about it.
Let me know how you respond to this. I'm just like, I'm trying to like work with the complex, because I don't know any of these answers specifically, but that of utilitarian pragmatism, that sort of efficiency based mindset is great, right? Like, you want to be able to get the job done in the most efficient way. That's like the best investment of your time is to get it done efficiently. Great, but that doesn't tell you what to do. It just it specifies a modality by which to achieve your goal, but that of which like orientates your goal interpretation, that's up for grabs.
Well, that's
utilitarianism can't respond to the actual like creation of the goal or the intention in the first place. It hasn't got a means by which to do that, which is kind of part of the issue.
Sorry, what do you mean by utilitarian? Because I understand it as like the greater good in like an ethical sense. What? How are you explaining this?
Utilitarian is sort of efficiency, also, for the greater good. Okay.
Okay, right, yeah. So it's the same kind of interpretation. Yeah, and I'd say, which is why, the knowing like what epistemological lens you're looking through is the key, because if you know that you're looking it through a pragmatic lens, and you know that, oh yeah, it's great, we can do stuff. We're attributing values to something that we can't justify. We just know that value works. But that's not reflective of reality, because even though the value works, we don't know what we're attributing that value to. So we could say it's space-time, we could say it's electrostatics, we could say it's anything really. There has to be an additional kind of step of it, which is why I'd say you have to go to the empiricist kind of epistemological worldview to then kind of clarify what that is. Otherwise, the maths works, but we don't know what it is really. That's as far as that takes us. So would you
thank you for
base
providing that
decisions on
correction.
that?
I was a little
Some
bit.
people would.
Your use of utilitarianism is different to mine, but as soon as you described it, I was like, okay, I'm reoriented now. I get
But
where you're
some
coming from.
people would, and some people would like base their life on that kind of worldview. Some people wouldn't. So that's kind of how I understand it and how I would explain it.
Is that
into words.
communism? Utilitarianism? Is it like greater good, like that
Well,
sort
it's
of
basically
idea?
it's like what we do in it when we vote. The utilitarian is that everyone's voted on a thing means that we go with that. So it's kind of like, so for example, do we kill someone because they've done, let's say Hitler comes into a courtroom and people are voting on whether to kill him
Everyone
or
picks
not.
Hitler. Everyone picks
Yeah.
Hitler. Okay.
The greater good would suggest we kill him because he's inflicting more damage on the world than what he's contributing to the world. Which I'm not a utilitarianist, to be honest, so I disagree with that. I'm more of a deontology.
Well, okay. Let's look at the society that what was it, the Third Reich was endeavoring to build there, and they seem to have like made vast strides in that of a utilitarian output.
Yeah.
Seems to be of the greater good. I mean, look, they faltered at the end, and then they started committing war crimes and all the rest of it. So, I don't know.
Well, in their minds, they're doing the right thing, right? And this is the like core of the issue, because which is why I don't agree. Like, just because, and it's kind of a fallacy, right? Just because most people say something or agree on something doesn't mean it's true based on consensus, which is kind of what utilitarian is. It's just kind of saying that most people agree on something, so that must be, that's kind of the outcome. Because who's to say that killing someone's bad? You have to go into a deeper metaphysical. You have to a more of an absolute kind of paradigm to even say what's evil and what's good. And those words themselves come from like religious texts, so it goes a lot deeper than just the fact that everyone's voting on something that means that the greater good, for example. Because what is good? How do you interpret what good is? Why is it good that people? Why is it good that people die, like or live? Like, who says? Well, that's why you have to get your knowledge from an absolute source, like such as a religious text, because they've got answers to those questions. But we, as individuals,
they have answers. Doesn't mean they're the correct answers. Quite often, I mean, there's many religious texts, and they all seem to conflict with one another.